Thanks for joining us today with our guest, Betty Clark. Now, Betty,
Becky,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those days,
That's okay.
Becky.
No problem.
You're the program coordinator for the Alzheimer's Association,
Yes.
and I'm looking here at your card, and it says Bentonville Regional Office, Oklahoma and Arkansas chapters. So how many counties do you cover?
We have a 13-county area, which includes Baxter, Boone, Marion, Carroll, Benton, Washington, Stone, Izard, and other counties that I'm not remembering right now. But we have a really large coverage area.
Boy, I guess you do.
What I do with the Alzheimer's Association, I am the program coordinator for the Northwest Arkansas office.
Mm-hmm.
So my job is to make sure that I am out there and supporting the counties that are under our coverage area.
Oh, okay.
And part of that includes support groups in the area, and we have, multiple support groups. I think we probably have about 16 different support groups in our 13-county region. But also, I am responsible for the educational programming in the area, being able to go out and just talk about the disease, talk about ways to handle communication and difficult behaviors, and
all education that
the
everyone's
issues
need.
that are involved with especially the caregivers. That's a huge issue with Alzheimer's disease because it's such a devastating disease. Just the caregiver issue is really huge.
Yeah.
And there's an incredible stress on people dealing with a person with dementia and Alzheimer's, especially if they're the lone caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Alzheimer's disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the U.S. And really, of the top 10 causes of death, it's the only one of those that doesn't have any form of known cure or prevention at this point. And we know that with the baby boomers aging, that this is going to become an absolute epidemic.
The numbers will be incredible.
They will be incredible.
And Nancy Svail is with us today, and Nancy has been wearing many hats, and she's been on our show before when she was the coordinator for the Muroc Family Education Center on Aging, and is now went back to school, got her license, bless your heart, congratulations on doing that, and now is running the Fairlamb Senior Health Clinic that is very close to the Muroc Family Center on Aging.
And we're very fortunate to have that senior health clinic now, because now we can give people in our area the workup that they need to rule out Alzheimer's disease or determine if they have a different type of dementia. So before, people in this area had to drive 2-3 hours away to get a good assessment, and there's so many things that can mimic dementia or cause memory loss. So it's important that people get that, which the Alzheimer's Association recommends a really good workup. Get your labs checked. We do a memory screening test, and so we're grateful to be here in Mountain Home.
Right. And I know you're taking patients 65 plus,
right,
and putting them through that extensive assessment process, which, as you've mentioned, is very, very important, very crucial that they have. And tell me what else that you do when you're out there and traveling around and educating folks. What message are you trying to get out to people?
Well, I think probably the main message that we want to get out is that early detection of the disease is best. And I know that it's a difficult disease for people to come to terms with, and there's a lot of denial involved in it. But early detection, and we find that a lot of that comes initially through their primary care physician that might refer them to places like your center, refer them to maybe a neurologist. Sometimes they do a pen and paper test. Sometimes it's MRIs or CAT scans, and even nowadays PET scans that can reveal that there really are changes going on in the brain. And we know that this is not just a normal part of aging. This is an actual disease of the brain that shuts the rest of the bodily functions down eventually. And we know that it is a fatal disease, but we do know that early detection of it can provide hope for getting on board with some medications early that can delay the progression of it.
And doesn't cure it.
It doesn't cure it. I would love the point where we're out of business,
Yeah.
where there is a cure for this disease. But right now, early detection is probably the best course of action, and that's the one message that I would like to put out there, along with being an advocate for funding for this disease with the state legislature here in Arkansas, but also nationally. And so we do really encourage people to get involved and call Senator Pryor to just try to get people on board with the funding for the disease, because it's really woefully underfunded compared to the cancers and the heart diseases. And we know that this is about to become an epidemic. So.
Oh my goodness, this is, you know, with all of this baby boomers, as you mentioned, you know, everyone's hitting that age. And now, Nancy, you mentioned that there are some things that will replicate or look like a dementia.
Right.
What would some of those be?
Well, a person may be simply anemic. They could be dehydrated. Urinary tract infections in an older adult can cause confusion and memory loss type symptoms. There's heart disease can cause, if you've had a stroke that's affected a part of the brain, or you have frequent mini strokes, or TIAs as we call them, that can cause a vascular dementia. So there's many different types of dementia besides the Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's is the most prevalent. It's about 60% of dementias are Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've worked with the Alzheimer's Association for many years now, and I tell you, they have some of the best programs. And so I was talking with Becky about trying to set one up here, because education is the key. You know, I always say knowledge is power, and if we know what we're having to deal with, we can cope better. If we see changes, we know, okay, this is part of the normal disease process, and also support for the caregivers, because it's a 24/7 job, you know, and most of them are doing it by themselves. And we try and teach them at the Muroc Center that they need to have a circle of caregiving. When you're first diagnosed about the disease, discuss these things, you know, talk about, well, who's available for resources to come in and just sit for a few hours if you need someone, and you know, are there services available to help with personal care if you need them? So we kind of call it Gail Sheehy calls it a circle of caregiving, and I think you need to think about that early, not wait till something happens. And also another thing I'm a big proponent for is I'll talk to caregivers and I'll say to them, what is your plan if something happens to you as a caregiver? Who's going to step in and take care of your loved one? And so often, no one has no clue what they're going to do.
They're so busy dealing with the day-to-day reality.
Absolutely.
That they've not looked that far down the road.
And one thing that we do notice is that the caregiver sometimes tends to decline before the person that they're giving care to with Alzheimer's, because it is such a 24/7 exhausting process, especially if you're dealing with maybe wandering issues at night. It's not even like nighttime can be a period of rest for the caregiver if they're dealing with a person that's wandering or agitated or irritated. And
do they still refer to sundowners?
Sundowners.
Okay.
And that is when, you know, as it gets dark, oftentimes those with Alzheimer's or dementia get agitated as the sun starts to go down too. So, but even during the day, just the process of doing getting them up, dealing with the ADLs, daily living issues with bathing and dressing and grooming and feeding, and trying to keep their minds engaged, trying to keep them active, alert, and not sleeping all day so that they don't sleep less at night. You know, if you think about what all that entails in a day, that's a lot of work to put into it. So I'm so grateful for the caregivers that do this, and they are a special breed. They're a special breed.
Yeah.
And part of what our mission is just to encourage and support them, and also to educate them about different techniques that they might try to use. And to be honest, sometimes it is a little bit trial and error about what might work in their particular situation. But we have a lot of research that tells us what things might work.
So there is literature available
for
absolutely.
Folks?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We need to talk about that as soon as we come back from a break, so don't go away. We'll be right back. We want to learn more about Alzheimer's and some tips that can help those caregivers that are taking care of their loved ones, especially at home. We'll be right back.